So, all right, we've been able to establish that the navigation buttons just navigates to the sheet. So I can't use this as a menu. So it has to go to a different sheet. So if I click on this bar chart, it doesn't stay in this flow chart. That's the implication. So in a situation where when I click this bar chart, I want this pie chart or the bar chart rather to stay or to show within this floating object or container rather than navigating to the exact sheet. So let's expand this. So if I click on bar chart, I want this to show and I do not want this to show, but rather it goes to the sheet and I have to put a navigation button here to go back to that view. And again, a navigation button can only be used on a dashboard. I do not have that luxury to add navigation button except maybe it's on the dashboard itself. You can see that I do not have option here. So unless I use navigate to a dashboard. However, what I'm trying to achieve here is to ensure that it stays within this floating object as a menu. So how do we go about that? So let's just quickly look at this in a bit. So I'll be using a sheet to implement this and not a navigation button. So I have these two sheets already created here. Let me add one more and maybe possibly, okay, let's click this one, double click. It's telling me I have the segment, I have the region, okay, everything on this particular one. It's okay. Let's just leave as is. I can only use two because it's showing that I have all the three sheets there. So let me just quickly put this as a background, white background, and let's focus on the floating objects. So what I would do here is this. I'll review the add and show button for this particular container, and I'm going to edit it and switch over to text rather than image. So in my text option, I'm going to type click to view more details. So what I want to achieve is this. I want them to click on this and expand that container, and when I click on it again, I want it to close it. So click to view more details is when it is hidden, when it's hiding, the item is hidden. But when it is shown, I just want to say click to close details. Window, detail window. Cool. So this is what I want to achieve with it, and I'm going to apply and say okay. And I will drag this to expand. It doesn't have to be this big. So I'll just click this to close the container. It's gone. And when I click it, you can see that it has changed to click to view more details, and I have this there. Cool. Let me just change the background to possibly blue thereabout, and there we have it, and we're fine. Okay, so the only thing I need to do now is to add a menu, which will be the navigation button. So when I click that, it goes to another one, and I will be able to achieve, and I'll be able to achieve that. And there we have it. Cool. Now we've been able to establish that. So how do we go about that button? So I'm going to create two other sheets, and I'll call it, or which I've created already, I'll call this one the region, which is the bar for the bar, and I'll call the bar chart navigation. So these are the sheets that I'll be using for my navigation. So the region bar and the pie chart bar. So I'll drag them to the floating chart, and this is what we should have. And I will reduce the size, and I'll bring in the pie charts too. Again, we have this in this order just because we use a container, horizontal container initially, and the way we organize our stuff. So I'll just use this. See, so let me see if I can drag this to the bottom. Okay, so it's just the same. Cool. I'll just put a border around it, and but for the demarcation purposes. So this will be my navigation button, which should be at the top here if I use a different container. So I want it to act as a navigation. So once I click this, it comes in here. Again, if I use the go to option and say go to sheet, it's still going to go back to the entire sheet. And I do not want that. I want it to stay within this flowchart. So come along with me, and this is what we do. We're going to create a parameter. So let's go to the region chart. I'll create a parameter and make this parameter 0 by default, and it's going to be an integer type. I'll call it parameter for menu. Cool. And I'll say okay. So I've created that parameter. So the next thing I'll do is to create two calculated fields. So one will be calculation for menu 1, or let me just say for bar chart, so that we'll be able to recognize it. And this one will hold this value. So I'll use the param menu, which is 0. I'll add it to 1, or let me just leave it as is, as 0, because this is my first menu bar, so I want the value to be 0. Cool. And I'll create a second calculated field. I'll duplicate this, and this will be for my second one, which is a pie chart. So I'll put a +1, and I will put a pie chart here. Cool. What will this things calculated field be doing? So these calculated fields have been mapped to the parameter. So I want to use this as a dashboard action. So I want to put it in here and use as a dashboard action in this. So once I click this, I want an action to be triggered. And what would the action be? The action will be to update or change a parameter. So once I click on this, I want a parameter to inherit a value, which will be from my calculated field. So let's go back to the one. So this is for my bar chart. So I'm going to put this calculated field into the text. Okay, or let's put it in text or detail, whatever it is. And let's put it in detail. Cool. And I'll hide this. Let's just change this to polygon. Cool. I'll leave the title as is. Cool. I've been able to add this into this, and it's looping with a parameter. Remember, I'll do likewise for the other one, pie chart, and I'll put in the parameter into detail. The calculator field into the detail rather, and I will change also to polygon and see if that works for us. Cool. We've been able to achieve this. So let's go back to the dashboard and add parameter actions into each of these sheets, which will be serving as our navigation button. So I go to dashboard, and remember it's on the dashboard we need it from, so we were fine to use the dashboard actions. So I'll click on the dashboard action and create a change parameter dashboard action. So I will select the name of this chart here as my source chart. So let me just deselect all these ones, hold down my shift button. So okay, let's just do that again. Hold down my shift button and come here to untick. Oh, it's not working, so let's just undo, and yes. So this is what I want to control the parameters. So I want the value to change to, or this parameter to change to my calculated field, which is calc1, and I will leave the value as is, and that's fine. And let's just edit this parameter action and say parameter, okay, or let's say this view, bar chart view. So this will help us to view the bar chart. And cool. So we create another parameter action for the pie charts, and that will be change parameter as well. I will check all these ones and leave the region bar chart, which is, oh, so I've interchanged it now. Let's go back in time. I'm going to Okay, so we're fine. So far we are selecting the right, we don't need to click on the sheet, but so far we're selecting the right source sheet, will be good to go. So the source sheet for this one will be my region on bar chart. Yeah, region bar chart navigation. And I want this parameter to change to calculation of this one. Okay, calculation for bar chart, which is 1, and I'll leave the value as is. Fine. So what do we do next? I'll click OK. Okay. So once this is clicked, I want this to change. I want this as well to change. So the next thing to do is to make sure that these values that are changing or that are updated by parameter, we can view our parameter to see our current value. Let's see the parameter. So the current value is 0. So once I click this one, I want the value to change. When I click this one, I want the value to change as well. So, but how do we use to control this? So let's go to the sheet. Remember, our pie chart has this calculation. 1 for pie chart has this calculated field. So I want my filter to be 1 for that reason, because I want it to be 0, because if you look at it, our value is 1 for pie chart and our bar chart is 0, because 0 is the default value. So what I want to do now is to filter. So I'll create a calculated field to hold the parameter. So I'll say parameter for filter, and I'll put in the parameter menu there. So whatever the value of parameter menu is, it will be the one to filter. So if the parameter menu is 0, I want it to filter this one. Next. Okay, let me change this to discrete. Change to discrete. My custom value will be 0. And I'll say, okay, so I want 0 to filter. So whenever our parameter is 0, I want it to filter this pie chart. And for my region bar chart, this one, I want my parameter to be filtered based on, let's go back to the dashboard. I mean this one. You can go from here if you don't know where the name of the sheet is. So I want this to filter based on 1 when the value is 1. I hope you can see the logic we're using here. So yeah, I will change this to discrete, and I will change this to 1, to 0 rather, not 1. Cool. All right, so a few changes as we go on. Just go back to this navigation sheet. I dropped this in details, so it can be a dimension and a discrete value, right? So you can see I have dimension and discrete as you wish. Discrete alone is fine, but you can use both. Now when we've been able to convert it, and I've already put this in our detail as well, so let's go to the dashboard action. So a few tweaks to the dashboard action. We will make sure that we set the value to 0. If we do not set the value to 0, it won't add up, because remember, we just want value 1 and 2, or value 0 and 1 rather. So we want the first one to always be 0, and we want the second one to be 1. So without it, we'll not be able to filter. So we want to always reset back to 0 each time we click it. So we should be good to go now. So you can see that we have this, and this should help us to filter. So when I click on this, I want the other one, but the 2 filters are going. So when I click on this, is also, so we need to go back to our pie chart and see the filters we have in there. So we have 0 as the custom value for our pie chart, so we expect it to show when the parameter is 0. And so remember, it will always show, so parameter will be the default value. So for the second one, which is the bar chart, the bar chart should always be 1, but it's showing 0, so that's where the error is. So I'm going to close this and put in 1. So always make sure to go back to verify when the actions are not working as expected. So now we have the bar chart gone. So we always want it to at least default to something. So the bar chart is gone. So once I click on this, I expect it to show, and you can see you can do this to multiple values, so 3 or 4. So once it is selected, it comes back to this. So we've been able to swap, and this will act as menu. So when we format it, automatically like making it, entire sheet, and you format this as you want to use it. Let's assume we have, okay, let's just assume we have this hidden, the title hidden. So we're just going to uncheck the title, I title. Let's go back to the navigation bar and see if we can add some text as menu, in the labels. So it's saying that we cannot, but you can just create a calculated field and put in menu or something as a string. Apply. Okay, so you put it in labels, so you can just put that as well here, just to give it that feel of a button. And there we have it. You can use entire view, and you can use entire view as well for the other one. And you can centralize as you want. That's a change from automatic and change from automatic to centralized. So we have this in there, and you can change the background color as you want. You can, make it bigger than it is. Let's just see if we can format the background. Worksheet color, not that one. Let's undo that. Let's go to shading, and worksheet will be, let's just give it a random color. That's too bright, something like this or this. And for the bar chart as well, you can just give a random color. And we go back to our dashboard, and you can see that we can also make this the entire view from here. Make entire view from the top, entire view, and you can see they're looking like menu. So you can tweak what you want as you want it. So you just make it active. So once you click this, it goes off. When you click this comes on, and you have your menu bar on in a floating chart or a floating container. So I can decide to close this window, and I say view more details, and I click this to view pie chart, and I click this to view the bar chart. And there you have it. Thanks for watching.